Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our second lecture video that is on basics of cloud computing, and I am Ishraq Humayun, your instructor for this course. And let us start our what is cloud computing. The term cloud computing generally refers to the ability of a system to store data or application on remote servers, process data, or applications from servers and access data and application via the internet. Cloud computing provides scalability, flexibility, cost effectiveness, and security to individuals and organizations to manage their IT operation. Cloud computing works on a pay-on-use basis for individuals and organizations. It is on-demand ability of system resource and computing power without direct active management by the user. Okay, it's very much lengthy. I'm just taking it in one word that for maintaining any software, web applications, or any types of database, you need a lot of servers in our office and lot of space, and we have to pay a lot of money for those. Because if we want to hire a lot of systems, then we also need to hire an IT officer or an executive who can manage this thing. But in cloud computing, you need not need these things. You just have an account on AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure, and from there you can create your own server and you host your applications. And you have to access it via internet. So it will just take the money, that amount of storage you are using. So it is both cost effective and also beneficial for you, because it doesn't have any security threat, as the security of are managing by the service provider. Then what is history of cloud computing? First of client server computing, distributed computing, and cloud computing. First of all, cloud server computing was introduced. Before computing was came into existence, client server architecture were used where all data and control of client reside in server side. If a single user want to access some data, firstly user need to connect to the server, and after that user will get appropriate access. But it has many disadvantages. So after client server computing, distributed computing was came into existence. In this type of computing, all computers are networked together with the help of this. User can share their resource when needed. It also has certain limitations. So in order to remove limitation faced in distributed system, cloud computing is introduced. For example, in your office, you have one computer, and from that you can access everything. But it has many disadvantages. So before going to cloud computing, distributed computing was used, and in many organizations currently this is also used, but it is not benefited, as you cannot via internet you can use it, but you cannot use it all the time because it is only limited to one office. During 1960s, John McCarthy developed his speech at MIT that computing can be sold as a utility like water and electricity. According to John McCarthy, it was a brilliant idea, but people at the time don't want to adopt this technology. They thought that the technology that are used efficient enough for them. So this concept of computing was not appreciated much, so and very less will research on it. But as the time fled and the technology caught the idea, after a few years, this idea is implemented. So this is implemented by Salesforce.com in 1999. For example, Salesforce.com and many other vendors who provide you software and you have to subscribe it based on month or year. But in 1961, when John McCarthy proposed it, many of the people are not happy with that because they are used to one technology of distributed system. And these companies started delivering an enterprise application over the internet. The way of boom of cloud computing started. As what I have told, that Salesforce is offering, still now it is offering software. In 2002, Amazon started AWS. Amazon will provide storage computing over the internet. In 2006, Amazon will launch Elastic Cloud Computing service, which is open for everyone. Currently, AWS has launched EC2 service, which is very much popular. After that, in 2009, Google Play also started providing cloud computing enterprise application. As other companies will see the emergence of cloud computing, they also started providing the cloud service. Thus, in 2009, Microsoft launched Microsoft Azure, and after that, other companies like Alibaba, IBM, Oracle, HP also introduced their cloud service. And today, cloud computing became very popular and important. Currently, if you want to work in modern era, you must know cloud computing. So there is the evolution of cloud computing, distributed computing, mainframe computing, cluster computing, grid computing, virtualization, Web 2.0, service orientation, utility computing, and cloud computing. In our next slide, you will see slide we can see that what is distributed system. It's a composition of multiple independent systems, but all of them are distributed a single entity to the user. The purpose of distributed system is to share resources and also use them effectively and efficiently. Distributed system process characteristics such as scalability, concurrency, continuous availability, heterogeneity, and independence in failure. But the main problem with this system was that all systems are required to be present at the same geographical location. Thus, to solve the problem, distributed computing led to three more types of computing, and they were mainframe computing, cluster computing, and grid computing. For example, as you know, if we want to have a lab in our university, there is one computer centrally which has all the applications installed in it, and the other sets of computer which are working as a subcomputers are using those applications. But the biggest problem here is all the systems must be in the same geographical location, so it is not benefited, or no one can benefited from that. Then mainframe computing. Mainframe, which was first came into existence in 1951, are highly powerful and reliable computing machines. They are responsible for handling large data such as massive input-output operation. Even today, these are used for bulk processing tasks such as online transactions, etc. These systems have almost no downtime with high fault tolerance. After distributed computing, this increased processing capability, but these are very expensive. To reduce this cost, cluster computing came as an alternative to mainframe technology. Okay, what is mainframe technology? Mainframe technology will does not have the disadvantages that we have previously in our distributed computing. But the biggest problem is mainframe computing is so much costly, so it is not easy for everyone to use it. Then cluster computing. In 1990s, cluster computing came as an alternative to mainframe computing. Each machine in the cluster was connected to each other by a network with high bandwidth. They were way cheaper and than those mainframe systems. These were equally capable of high computation. Also, new nodes could be easily added to the cluster it was required. Thus, the problem of the cost was solved to some extent. But the problem with literal geographic restriction is still pertained. To solve this concept, grid computing was introduced. In cluster computing, there is a one network in which everything is going to in where everything is going to be available, but the other PC are connected to that. But the biggest problem here is everything has to be in the same geographical location, so it is not feasible that much. In 1990, the grid computing was introduced. It means the different systems are placed at entirely different locations, and these are connected via the internet. The system belongs to different organizations, and thus the grid consists of heterogeneous node. Although it solves some problem, but new problem emerges the distance between the node increase. The main problem was encountered was the low availability of high bandwidth connectivity, and with it other network associated issues. This cloud computing is often referred to as successor of grid computing. So you can see in the grid computing you don't have any problem related to geographical location. Computer but PC can be the systems can be in different locations. But the biggest problem is when all the nodes are connected, sometimes all the time high bandwidth is required. So it creates many problems in those cases. Virtualization. It was introduced nearly 40 years back. It refers to the process of creating virtual layer over the hardware, which allows to use run multiple instances simultaneously on the hardware. It is a key technology used in cloud computing. It is the base on which major cloud computing services such as Amazon EC2, VMware Cloud, etc. on hardware virtualization is still one of the most common types of virtualization. For example, we have one PC, one server, but you need to you provide to many ones, or you have a lot of clients. So if you use it in your office and you kept a PC and you have to install things, it creates a lot of problem. But in hardware virtualization, the service provider will provide you everything. You just need to host your application. Web 2.0. In if you It is the interface through which cloud computing service interact with the clients. It is because of Web 2.0 we have interactive and dynamic web pages. It also includes flexibility among web pages. Popular examples of Web 2.0 include Google Maps, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Needless to say, social media is possible because of this technology. It gained major popularity in 2004. While if you do your registration in AWS or Azure, you see that there is a beautiful interface from where you can do your work, and it provides you a web interface. Service orientation. It acts as a reference model for cloud computing. It supports low-cost, flexible, and evolve-well applications. Two important concepts were introduced in the computing. These were quality of service, which also include the service level agreement, and software as a service. So in many organizations, you don't need to build any ERP or any software applications. In the service orientation case, you can use the software as a service, and which you can subscribe for monthly or yearly. Utility computing. It is a computing model that defines service provisioning techniques for service such as compute service models along with other major services such as storage infrastructure, etc., which are provisioned on a pay per use basis. Thus, the above technology contribute to making of cloud computing. In utility computing, service provider will provide you system and you will have to pay as much storage as you use. Characteristics of cloud computing: on-demand self-service, broad network access, resource planning, rapid elasticity, and measured services. Now we'll go through these things. What is on-demand self-service? The cloud computing service does not require any human administrator. Users themselves are able to provision, monitor, and manage computing resources. For example, in your dashboard, you can see everything about your server, how much storage you have bought, how much users are accessing your system. So it does not require any administrator to monitor. Broad network access. The computing generally provided over standard error heterogeneous. You can use it through your mobile, you can use it through your Mac, PC, desktop, everything and anywhere of the world. Rapid elasticity. The computing service should have IT resources that are able to scale out and quickly and on needed basis. Whenever the user requires services, it is provided to him and it is scaled out as soon as the requirement gets over. The computing service should have IT service that are able to scale out and quickly need basis. Whenever the user requires service is provided to him and scale out as soon as, for example, we need to host an application for an event or a conference. So we have to host it till the conference or the time we require. So in AWS or Azure, you will get the opportunity to store to buy storage only for few days and to host your application, and after the time is over you can delete it. The resource pooling: the IT resource example, network server, storage, applications and services present are shared across multiple applications and occupant in uncommitted manner. Multiple clients are provided service on same physical from one AWS. If you have one AWS account, you can create many EC2 instances and you can give access to your different clients. So it is one thing. Then major services. The resource utilization track for each application and document. It will provide both user and resource provider with an account of which has been used. This is done by various resources like monitoring, billing, and effective use of resource. For example, I need 2 GB storage for hosting my website. So the amount of cost that I have to pay and what is the bill, both service provider and client are clear about their thing. Multi-tenancy. Cloud computing provider can have multiple tenants. User organization single set of share. For a multi-tenancy, as many user can access one AWS account and many user can host their application in the same AWS, but the IP address is different. Virtualization. Cloud computing providers uses virtualization technology to extract underlying hardware resource and present them with logical resource to use them. Virtualization technology is so much important because without virtualization, you need not know about the hardware resource or any other thing. Everything is done by service provider, so it give you a lot of benefit. Resilient computing. Cloud computing services are typically designed with redundancy and fault tolerance in mind, which ensures high availability level. As you know, there is no redundancy or any. For example, as if I hosted from a real life experience, I'm telling you that I have hosted an application in cPanel, but there is cache problem and many other problems. If you update the site, many things are. But in cloud computing, as it is designed with redundancy and fault tolerance in mind, you don't have to face those problems. Flexible pricing model. Cloud providers offers a variety of price models, including pay-per-use, subscription, and spot pricing, allowing users to choose the option that best suits their needs. The price of cloud computing is always flexible. It is not so much high or so much low. It is always within the range. Security. Cloud providers invest heavily in security measures to protect their users' data and ensure privacy of sensitive information. In cloud computing, you will get the security. You don't need to provide other thing because the service provider are providing you the serious level of security which you don't require to check or work on it because um, they are storing your all information and they are giving you security. If you keep those things in your office in a server, so many things can happen and hacking is taking place here and there, so it is safe. Automation. Cloud computing services are often highly automated, allowing users to deploy and manage resources with minimal manual intervention. Cloud computing systems sometimes always give you the options of automation because you can deploy an application easily from there. Sustainability. Cloud providers are increasingly focused on sustainable practices such as energy efficient data centers and use of renewable energy sources to reduce their environment impact. So it is sustainable as the data centers are in different parts of the world. So there is no think about you don't need to think about the sustainability of it. Then what are the advantages of cloud computing? Scalability, security, accessible to modern technology, cheaper mobility, easy collaboration, and prediction ability. Scalability. One of the best advantages of cloud computing is scalability. Maintaining a business organization other Element is trying in ideas are coming, especially amid of stress of downturn expansion pandemic where putting together and restore network disturbance. Cloud computing provides the opportunity to scale at our own speed. Organizations are savvy to have their significant development plotted out 3 to 5 years ahead of time. However, the world can be unpredictable. Whether you need to develop forcefully or carefully downside decisively during session or unrest, cloud computing is a business resource you pay for just as and when you want it. So, scalability is the biggest thing that you can get from cloud computing because you you know what is. For example, you have 10,000 users. It can handle 10,000 user very easily. So it provides scalability, security. According to certain reports, small private companies are multiple times more likely to suffer of a cyber attack than large organizations. The most likely shocks numerous owner of companies. The reasons are obvious, but only 33% of the organization with four or fewer representatives register hacks as a danger. The year 2021 reported 5297 for cybercrime, whereas the year 2020 reported 50,000 and 35,000 cases in India. Migrating business to the cloud implies approaching industry standard information data protection assurance, firewalls, and robotized all day. Every day, network observing fee out of every organization can bear hold that sort of IT ability and foundation in house. In small startup companies, they have their own server and they are always victim of cyber attack. But in case of cloud computing, as a service provider provided with security, you don't have to tolerate those things. Accessible to modern technology. Cloud computing is far more than internet-based storage service for data. Organizations worldwide currently use cutting-edge technology. They need to get done their responsibility and run their business over the web utilizing the cloud. Some technology available on a cloud platform include artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, data visualization, data containerization. Is the public cloud set to surpass US $500 by 2023. The opportunity to build powerful AI application machine learning models without buying actual physical servers is a strong motivation. In AWS, you will see EC2, S3, where you can develop various data analytics software tools and also AI things. So it is accessible to modern technologies. But the cloud computing model is based on the pay-as-you-go principle and offers a closely less expensive way for organization to remain coordinated and online. Albeit the cost of the hard drives, storage state drives, servers, and other fundamental things have fallen lately, cloud computing proves to be the best regarding cost expenses. It is still more affordable much of the time to pay a continuous membership expense for cloud computing access than to buy, and afterward keep an in-house data processing or warehouse construction. Organizations don't have to look at search for and buy actual physical infrastructure when they have a dependable cloud computing partner. If you want to host your application or your all the docs and storage in cloud, you don't need to buy any servers. For maintaining a server, you have to pay a space, rent, administrator salary. But in cloud computing, if you have hosted the application, you don't need to put that. The service provider will look after all these things. Mobility. One of the main advantages of cloud computing is mobility. Employees have their option to complete heavy tasks from anywhere. Work-life balance and working from home on everyone basis nowadays. Information workflow through the cloud introduces itself as a sensible investment. As you know, on 2021 to 2020, COVID pandemic has spread through the world. So it is not possible for everyone to be on the office. But in cloud computing, if you host your application, you can access it from anywhere, even from your home. Easy collaboration. A benefit of distributed computing firmly connected with mobility is simple collaboration. It is one thing to take your platform administrator information mobile. It's one more challenge to gather all the data gathered by your company agents, organize it, and ensure there is no error duplicate. Cloud service means less complex and less mistake inclined coordination between organization, department, clients, and customers. There is less time expected to exchange information and reach significant conclusion from when everyone works from a similar single source of truth. Yet collaboration is easy. For example, in your office you have many departments, but all the department data are hosted in the same server. So it can collaborate and you can also access data if required from in one department to another. Prediction ability. Data analytics deserve more consideration. Cloud computing has accomplished more powerful predictive analytics than other technologies. In any event, when you don't have the machine you really want under your rooftop, someone on the opposite side of the globe had a processing for you access for a lower charge. In cloud computing dashboard, you will see that in service provider, both AWS and Azure, you will see that in the dashboard there is data analytics, and it will also give some predictability of your data usage in the future. So you can aware about those things. Cloud computing architecture, here you see one is front end and back end. In front end there is client infrastructure, and in the back end there is application service, cloud runtime, storage, and infrastructure. The cloud architecture is divided into two parts, front end and back end. Front end of the cloud architecture refers to the client side of cloud computing system, means it contains all the user interfaces and applications which are used by the client to access the cloud computing server resources. For example, use of a web browser to access the cloud platform. Client infrastructure. Client infrastructure is a part of the front end component, contains the application and user interfaces which are required to access the cloud platform. In other words, it provides GUI to interact with cloud. Okay, so one thing, if you have the AWS account and you log into that, you see that there is a nice interface where you can see many options, and from there you can choose your application, what you want to develop, EC2, Ubuntu Server, S3, everything, serverless computing. In the backend, there is application, service, runtime, cloud, storage, infrastructure management, security, internet, database, network, and analytics. What is application? Application in backend refers to a software or platform to which client access, means it provides the service in backend as per the client requirement. The application is the thing that is developed according to the client requirement and which provides the client with the necessary service. Service is the backend refer to the major three types of cloud-based services like software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. Also explain which type of service the user accesses. So there are three major types of cloud-based services which can be accessed from anywhere. Runtime cloud. Runtime cloud backend provides the execution and runtime platform and the virtual machine. That's the question. It will provide you, and you can see the virtual machines you can install there and you can work on the storage. Storage in backend provides flexible and scalable storage services and management of stored data. Infrastructure. Cloud infrastructure in backend refer to the hardware or software components of cloud, like it includes servers, storage, network devices, virtualization, software, etc. In the infrastructure, in your office, if you want to develop a system or host a system, you need to have many things like servers, storage, network devices, but the cloud service provider offer you all the things. Then what is management? Management is the backend refers to the management of backend components like application, service, runtime, cloud, storage, infrastructure, and other security mechanisms. Security in management, you can see that there are many things like infrastructure, application, service. If you don't if you use your own server and if you don't go for cloud computing, you must manage it everything. But in case of cloud computing, everything is managed by the service provider. Security, the backend refers to the implementation of different security mechanism in the backend for secure cloud resource, system files, and infrastructure end user. So what is security? It gives you security of your resources, system files, and infrastructure. Internet connection acts as the medium of bridge between front-end and back-end and establish interaction communication between front-end and back-end. Via internet, you access the information of the backend. Then if you send in the request to the server and it is go to the backend. So database in back end refers to provided database for storing structured data such as SQL, NoSQL database. Example of database service include Amazon RDS, Microsoft Azure SQL database, and Google Cloud SQL. Networking in backend services that provide networking infrastructure for application in the cloud, such as load balancing, DNS, and virtual private network. Analytics. Analytic and backend service that provides analytics capability for data in the cloud, such as warehouse, business intelligence, machine learning. You can see there are many dashboards that will show you analytics data, so you can use it on your cloud system. Benefits of cloud computing architecture. Makes overall cloud computing system simpler, improves data processing requirement, helps in providing high security, makes it more modularized, results in better disaster recovery, gives good user accessibility, reduce IT operation costs, provides high level reliability and scalability. So cloud computing infrastructure, here is hypervisor, network, server, storage, management software, and deployment software. Hypervisor. What is hypervisor? Hypervisor is a firmware or a low-level program which is key to enable virtualization. It is used to divide and allocate cloud resources between several customers. As it monitors and manages cloud services resource, that's why hypervisor is called VMM and or virtual machine manager. Hypervisor work as a virtual machine monitor or virtual machine manager. If you install any servers or Ubuntu or anything, if hypervisor work as a monitor there. Management software helps in maintaining configuring the instruction. Cloud management software monitors and optimize resource data application and services. There are very management software in cloud computing which help you in monitoring and optimizing resource data and application and resources. Deployment software. Deployment software helps in deploying and integrating the application on the cloud. So typically it helps in building virtual computing environment. In, in many cases, if you want to deploy your software or web application, you must have to go through many things. But in cloud computing, they offer you a software which makes the deployment easy. Network is one of the key components of cloud infrastructure, which is responsible for connecting cloud services over the internet. For the transmission of data and resources externally and internally, network must be. Without network, you cannot work on cloud. So network is a must. Server. Servers represent the computing portion of the cloud infrastructure responsible for managing and delivering cloud services for various service partners and managing security. Without server, you cannot manage anything. Storage. Storage represents the storage facility which is provided to different organization for storing and managing data. It provides the facility of extracting another resource if one of the resource fails as with many copies of storage. So sometimes you may lose your data. You don't have any backup, so you will face many problems. But in cloud computing, there is enough storage which will give you backup data. The cloud management. Cloud computing management is maintaining and controlling the cloud services and resource be it public, private, or hybrid. Some of its aspects include load balancing, performance, storage backups, capacity deployment, etc. To do so, cloud computing personnel need a full access to all the functionality of resources in the cloud. Different software products and technology are combined to create a cohesive cloud management strategy and process. So in cloud management, all the things deployment, performance, storage balancing is monitored and managed by the service provider. Need of cloud management. Cloud is nowadays preferred by huge organizations as their primary data small storage. A small downtime or an error can cause great deal of lose and inconvenience for the organization. So as to design, handle and maintain a cloud computing service, specific members are responsible to make sure things out are supposed and arises issues are addressed. In if you have your own server, sometimes there may be an accident or there will be wear issues, so you may lose your data. But in cloud computing, as all the data is stored and there is backup, so you there is no lose of losing data. Cloud management platform. A cloud management platform is a software solution that has a robust and extensive set of APIs that allows to pull data from every corner of the IT infrastructure. A CMP allows an IT organization to establish a structured approach to security and IT governance that can be implemented across the organization in their cloud environment. For example, um, there is API which will allow you to manage things over the cloud environment. So cloud management does auditing system backup, flow of data in the system, vendor lock-in, knowing provider security procedures, monitoring and capacity scaling, availability monitoring, audit log, and solution testing and validation. Auditing system backups. It is required to audit the backup from the time to ensure restoring or randomly selected files of defined type. This might be done by the organization or by the cloud service provider. So sometimes you need audit for system backup. So it is sometimes done by the organization or by the cloud service provider. Flow of data in the system. The managers are responsible for designing a data flow diagram that shows how the data is supposed to flow throughout the organization. Vendor login. The manager should know how to move their data from a server to another in case organization decides to switch provider. So sometimes you you need to move your data from one, you may switch from AWS to Azure. So the cloud service provider organize your data so that you can move it easily. Knowing provider security, the manager should know the security plans of the providers, especially multi-net use e-commerce processing, employee screening, and encryption policy. So, the people who is or the person who is responsible for this in your office, he should look after the things and know provider security. So monitoring capacity, planning and scaling ability. The manager should know if the current cloud provider is going to meet their organization demand in the future and also scaling capabilities. So a manager in cloud computing must know the organization demand in the future and also its scaling capability. Monitoring audit log. In order to identify error of the system, logs are audited by the manager on a regular basis. So if you want to identify the error in your system, you must log and audit the system. Solution testing and validation necessary to test the cloud service and verify the result and error-free solution. So a manager must validate the system if it is okay or not. Cloud computing, cloud storage is a virtual locker where you can remotely stationary data. When we upload a file to cloud-based server like Google Drive, OneDrive, or iCloud, that file gets copied over the internet and data server. That is cloud-based actual physical space, whereas companies store file on the multiple hard drive. Most companies have hundred of each server known as server farms spanning across multiple locations. If our data gets somehow lost, we will not because lose our data because it will be backed up by another location. This is known as redundancy, which keeps our data safe from being lost. In cloud storage, you can store data in one location, but in many cases there are many hard drives where you store data. If any of the hard drive lost, then you can lose your data. Then real-world application of cloud computing, online data storage, backup and recovery, big data analysis, testing and development, antivirus application, e-commerce application, cloud computing in education, e-governance application, cloud computing in medical fields, and entertainment application. So big data analysis, we know that the volume of big data is so high, where storing the traditional data management system for organizing impossible. But cloud computing has resolved the problem by allowing organizations to store their large volumes of data in cloud storage without worrying about physical storage. Next, come analyzing the raw data and finding out inside or useful information from it is a big challenge as required high quality tools for data analytics. Cloud computing provides the biggest facilitator to organizations in terms of storing and analyzing big data. In case of big data analysis, you need a lot of data which need to be in one place. In cloud computing gave you that opportunity. Testing and development. Setting a platform for development and finally performing different types of testing to check the readiness of the product before delivery is required. Different types of IT systems and infrastructure. But cloud computing provides the easiest approach for development as well as testing, even deployment by using their IT resources with minimal expenses. Organizations find it more helpful as they got scalable and flexible cloud services for product development, testing, and deployment. For example, if you want to set up an application for your testing in cloud computing offer you many options that you can test your application, and where you can also see in the analytics there is they will show the what are the field that you can develop. So testing and development plays an important role. Antivirus application. Previously, organizations are installing antivirus software within their system. In if we personally also antivirus software in our system to outside cyber threats. But nowadays, cloud computing provides cloud antivirus software, which means the software is stored in the cloud and monitors system organizing system remotely. The antivirus software identifies the security risks and fixes them. Sometimes also they give a feature to download. For example, in many cases you need to that there are many antivirus applications which we need to clear because which we need to install in our application for cyber threats or any other problem. But in cloud computing service provider like AWS and Azure, they will provide you the antivirus installed on their system, so which will make your life more easy. E-commerce application. Cloud-based e-commerce allows you responding quickly to the opportunities which are emerging. Users respond quickly to the market opportunity as they will traditional e-commerce respond to the challenge quickly. Cloud-based e-commerce gives a new approach to do business with minimum amount as well as minimum time possible. Customer data, product data, and other operational systems are managed in cloud environment. In cloud-based, you can host your e-commerce and it it can do business with minimum amount as well as minimum time possible. As we in the analytics, you'll get customer data, product data, and other operation system so it managed, so it is more easy for us. Cloud computing in education sector brings an unavailable change in learning, providing e-learning, online distance platform, and a student interactive and attractive environment for learning, teaching, experimenting, etc. to students, faculty members, and researchers. Everyone associated with the field can connect to the cloud of their organization, access data information from there. In case of cloud computing, in education, there are many platforms that you can access online in e-learning platform. There is Muktopart, GoEdu, etc. So in cloud computing will host those applications and you can access it from anywhere. E-governance. So many cloud computing can provide its service to multiple activities conducted by the government. It can support government to move from traditional ways of management and service provider to advanced way of everything, expanding the availability of the environment, making the environment more scalable customer. It can help the government to reduce the necessary costing, managing, installing, and upgrading application, and doing all this with the help of cloud computing and utilizing that money public services. For example, if you want to host all your website, for example, you have 33,000 website, so you need many servers. But in case of cloud computing, a government can access all their application just in one AWS server, and which can easily work. The cloud computing in medical field. In the medical field, also nowadays, cloud computing is used for storing and accessing the data, as it allows you to store data and access it through the internet without worrying about any physical setup. It facilitates easier access and distribution of information among the various medical profession and the individual patient. Similarly, with the help of cloud computing, off-site buildings and treatment facilities like labs, doctor making emergency house calls and ambulance information etc. can be easily accessed, updated remotely instead of having to wait until it can access hospital computer. In medical field, if a medical software is hosted in the in the cloud platform, so the users and the management can access it easily. But if it is hosted in the hospital server, if there is any problem, so you cannot access it. Entertainment application. Many people get entertained from the internet. In case of cloud computing, it is the perfect place for reaching a verified consumer base. Therefore, different types of entertainment industry reach near the target audiences by adopted a multi-cloud strategy. Cloud-based entertainment provides various entertainment applications such as online music, video, online games, and video conferencing, streaming service, etc. It can be device, be it TV, mobile setup box, or any other platform. It is new form of entertainment called on-demand entertainment. The respect to the other cloud marketing is growing rapidly and providing various service devices. So other applications of cloud computing include social application, management application, business application, art application, and many more. So in the future, cloud computing is going to touch many more sectors by providing more application. As you are using Netflix, Chorky, etc., and many other entertainment applications which are hosted in cloud, and it provides you the live streaming experience, which is very much difficult if it's not hosted on cloud. So this is the end of my lecture. Thank you. It is a long lecture since we have to discuss all about the basic things, so it is a little bit long. There is no other way. So thanks for being with me. Assalamu alaikum.